Hey everyone, a little bit of a different video today. Today, I just want to talk about growth hacks that used to work that either don't work at all anymore or they've been changed in some way. Mostly to just reminisce and just have fun talking about these things, but to also show you that a lot of these platforms they do have some kind of things that you can hack, and anytime a new platform comes out, that means it's usually ripe for some changes. So for instance, school is becoming a really big thing now, school.com with SKOOL, and I see people already trying to like hack the messages and things like that. And so yeah, I thought I would just talk about a couple and just reminisce a little bit. So the first one is the Eventbrite Loom cold email exploit. And so what you used to be able to do, and oh, you used to be able to do this with Google Forms too, actually, is you could just upload a list of email addresses, and Eventbrite and Loom had no way of knowing, if they're actual legit email addresses. But the thing was, you could do it in gigantic bulk quantities. So today, you could cold email somebody a Loom video and just share it with them, and that would just work. But doing it one by one is not interesting. Same thing with Eventbrite and same thing with Google Forms. And so what you used to be able to do is add people to an Eventbrite or to the Loom or to the Google Form via API, and you could just hammer them. So instead of you setting up a bunch of domains and inboxes and all of these things, you could upload them via API, and you could be sending Eventbrite emails, you could send Loom videos, or you could send Google Forms. Loom probably caught on faster than anybody that yeah, they shouldn't be doing that. Google Forms got changed and Eventbrite got changed as well. But this was a really fun one because they were getting emails from other, IP addresses, and they couldn't really stop you. And it was kind of interesting. On Eventbrite, we would get like a 2% conversion rate on the events and the invitations and things. So it was pretty funny. But anyway, you used to be able to connect with 1,000 people per week on LinkedIn. And so the way you would do this, and I think I'm going to call out another company, Lead Hype as well. We could talk about both of them. So you used to connect with 1,000 people per week on LinkedIn by exploiting the contact book feature. And so basically, if you had the personal email address, or if you just had an email address that somebody had hooked up to their LinkedIn account and it was in your contact book of your email, you would be able to connect with those people automatically. And so, so actually, this is still possible to do today. The only problem is getting the personal email addresses is harder because Lead Hype would help us with that. And so I'll talk about that in a little bit. But also they shut down the automation to click everybody. So there was a script that somebody made that you could get access to on Twitter or whatever it was. And so instead of clicking 1,000 times, you would just activate that automation. It would click everything for you. So this is still possible, but it just doesn't work the same way. And maybe I should have moved this to the second half of the video. But the big thing was Lead Hype was a company run by my friend Andrew, who they were using fake LinkedIn accounts to scrape LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and they had a huge database of personal email addresses in their data as well. So for $100 a month, you could do a ton of LinkedIn scraping, get the personal email addresses, add them to your contact book of whatever email address that you had, and then you would then say, hey, look at my contact book of my Gmail account, and it would look at all of the new people of personal email addresses that you'd never connected with. You could run that script, and then you would connect with everybody, so you could circumvent the 1,000 people per week. And you weren't hacking anything, like you weren't automating your LinkedIn account, you were using a feature that they wanted you to use. It's funny, a lot of these platforms, they want you to not spam, but they're okay with spamming, right? Because if there's a personal email address that's not on LinkedIn, they'll ask you to invite those people to LinkedIn, which I think is really funny because, they're cold emailing people technically too. They're just saying Eric is inviting you to join. So a little bit different. But this used to be one of my favorites. We would get the email addresses from Lead Hype by scraping a Sales Navigator list, upload them to your Gmail account as a contact import, add, and then view your contact book to add more connections. And then there was automation to click all 1,000. Still works today, but the automation to click all 1,000 doesn't work. So it's changed. You used to be able to run YouTube ads on a video. So you could pick the video, and I'm pretty sure this doesn't work anymore because I know they were sunsetting it, and I haven't done this. I haven't even looked into this in a long time. So if I'm wrong, leave a comment. But they were sunsetting it, so we stopped, and I'd imagine they actually sunsetted it. So you used to be able to target a particular video and say, I want my ads run on this video. And the reason they stopped it is because, I mean, we were one of these people too, is what you could then do is you could make an ad that answered the same questions that that email did, that YouTube video did, and then the watch time was ridiculously high. So let's say there was a video by, um, Alex Ramosi might be too recognizable, but there was a video by a YouTuber who was an expert in the field. Say there was one of my YouTube videos, right? And I'm not even saying I'm an expert in my field, and I'm not even that big of a YouTuber. Let's, kind of get that straight. But let's say I had a video about email deliverability. Somebody else could put an ad on that video and then not make it look like an ad at all. Make it look just like this and say, okay, today we're going to talk about 10 tips for email deliverability, but have calls to action for their service the entire time. And so, the watch time was just crazy high because people thought they were watching the actual video. Because when you think about it, a lot of people, when they're learning something new about cold email or about whatever it is, they don't care about the creator that they're actually watching. You don't know who that person is. So when you click on it and somebody just starts talking about that and it doesn't look like an ad, you might not just skip it and you might just keep watching the video. Can't do that anymore. Used to work really, really well. And you could just hijack, other people's search terms, and it was pretty crazy. It used to be a lot easier to create fake LinkedIn accounts, and in the past 2 years, they've really decimated creating fake LinkedIn accounts. But when you created the fake LinkedIn accounts, you needed to use a dedicated proxy, and then you needed to set them up and do all this crazy stuff. What we found is if you could get the LinkedIn account past 500 connections, LinkedIn kept them alive a lot longer. And so there were these people on LinkedIn called Lions, I'm pretty sure. And I'm pretty sure it stood for LinkedIn Open Networker. And you could connect with them and you could really boost your connections. But sometimes those people wouldn't connect with them and it was kind of annoying. And if your a profile didn't look great, they wouldn't connect with you. So what we would do is to warm them up so we could get past that 500 connections so we could start outreaching through these alias LinkedIn accounts. We would warm them up and we would say we were a software engineer at Google, and just all of the automations that recruiters have on their profiles would just hammer the request connections, and then we would just start doing that. So that one was really good. That was a good one. Another one that just came to my mind that used to work really well, and then they got a cease and desist, was Data for SEO, which is a website that everybody should just check out for data anyway. Data for SEO used to have a similar web scraper, and they were selling similar web data for like nothing. And then they got a cease and desist. So you could query the API and get the similar web data. It was really, 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 really great. But they got a cease and desist. So that one doesn't work anymore. That wasn't really a hack because, I mean, they were doing the hack for you. It's a little bit different. When they first added the GPT-4 functions or whatever it was to Bing, people found that the OpenAI API token was in the search, and you could use that API key and you could get free access to GPT-4 and not have to pay for credits. This was alive for like 2 months. It was kind of cool. It was fun while it lasted, but obviously they patched it, super, super fast. Used to be able to get sales nav licenses for $9. A big way that this was happening was organizations would buy gigantic sales nav packages, and then they would go to third party resellers to basically, because at an enterprise level, if you've got 5,000 employees, they're only going to send you, they're only going to sell you a sales nav license package, in bulk. So you've got 5,000 employees, they'll sell you, or if you've got 4,500 employees, they'll sell you a package of 5,000 sales nav licenses. So there's 500 left over. So those companies would go to resellers and say, hey, we don't want to be paying for all of these. Can you, split them up for us? And you could do this and you could get a sales nav license for $9. I know a guy whose whole business was this, and overnight his whole business got shut down. So anyway, but you used to be able to get sales nav licenses for $9. I'm sure there's some scheme out there now that's doing this, but anyway. Howitzer, that used to be really cool, and so this company has pivoted to HeyReach. But so, um, it Reddit is a great place to talk to people who are really engaged about topics, because even though they're anonymous, it's very easy to tell they're very engaged about a topic because of the subreddit that they're a member of, or the topics that they comment on. And so, but it's really tough to get an account to send messages because Reddit has this really locked down. So what Howitzer used to do is they have had their own fake Reddit accounts, and they would keep building all of these. And then what you would be able to do is you could go to Howitzer and you could say, hey, I want to message these people about this thing. What you couldn't do is if they messaged you back, you wouldn't be able to respond to them because you were just using fake accounts to essentially like banner ad people. And so You could use their fake accounts, message them on Reddit, and then say, "Hey, check out the link here," and blah blah blah. Reddit found out about this, and they knocked out all of Howitzer's accounts in one big fell swoop, and it was kind of the death of a big growth hacking operation, but that was pretty good. Um, yeah, they pivoted to a new company now, but that used to be a good one. Sell SaaS Unlimited API. So this used to be a lot more popular, and I don't see people talking about it as much anymore. But so Sell SaaS it's still around for sure. I think it's sell-saas.com. So this is a white label SaaS company whose whole business model is to get other people to sell the SaaS for them. So you could white label this SaaS company and essentially you could get contact data from it. So it was like your own version of Apollo or, you know, I don't want to say it was as good as Zoom Info, but Lead IQ or something like that. And so it had all these features and you could search for, the CEOs of companies with 10 to 50 employees. A classic, like it was basically like, a knockoff version of Apollo. But what you could do is you could white label it and you could, and people were, selling it on their own. So there was like Icy Leads is the one that I was using the most. And I don't know, there was all these things. Anyway, what you used to be able to do is they had an API across the entire platform and you had credits on the platform. Well, no, I guess you had unlimited credits. That was a part of their offer was you could do like $99 for as many email addresses as you want or something like that. And sometimes it included the mobile phone numbers too. But so anyway, what you could do is you could get a license on one of these platforms and you could just query the API and you could get as much data back from it as you wanted. Their email address data wasn't that great, but the fact that they just knew that a person worked at a company was valuable. So you used to be able to do this. Now they've patched it. So I think you still have unlimited access to it, but the rate limit is not worth it. So anyway, that was a good one. Web Summit is probably one of the largest tech events. They run another tech event called Collision and they used to have a web app that you would be able to scrape all the attendees and build lists on and all these things as long as you paid for a ticket. That platform that you scraped was their events platform. And since Web Summit was one of the biggest tech events, there was a ton of other people who are using that web platform too. And so if you could if you bought a ticket and you had access to that web platform, you'd be able to scrape everybody and then find their email addresses with Google searches and their LinkedIn profiles with Google searches and then enrich their email addresses. But, they then do not allow a web app anymore. They only allow mobile apps, which are a totally different game to scrape. So it was, that one went away too, but that was another fun one. And so these are all other hacks that they still work in some capacity, but they're just totally way harder to just get. So LinkedIn event invites, it used to be way easier to send. You could send 1,000 LinkedIn event invites per day when they first started. And then they changed it to per week. And now I don't even know what the number is, but it was super easy to send them to people who were in your ICP because of the filters that they allowed you to get access to. And then they changed the filters you were allowed to get access to. And then it just became like complete garbage of what you could send out in bulk. So, LinkedIn event invites, it was like the best hack ever. Me and my friends, we would get events with over 2,000 registrants. And then it was so easy to put these things together. We even forgot to run an event one time. And we had 2,000 people who registered and we just didn't do it. And we just completely forgot. Um, so, like I said, this is still possible. You could still run LinkedIn events and you invite people on the platform. You still get a high response rate. But the part that they changed was the bulk that you could do. And so it just doesn't work the same way. You used to be able to go to OpenAI and get $2,500 of free credits, and they were basically accepting everyone. And it was super easy to get $2,500 free credits. Like anybody with a website and an email address could get the $2,500 dollars worth of free credits. Now, I think this program still exists, but it's way harder to get admitted, so it just doesn't work the same. iMessage sending through Porterhouse. This still works, but you'll get flagged for spam so much faster. So if you wanted to cold text people, which I don't even recommend that you do this. When I first started my agency, one of our very first customers wanted to do this. It worked really well, but it's not ethical and it's really annoying. And I would just never do this ever again. It was like, this was years ago. So we would message people through Porterhouse because then it would come through as a blue bubble and all these other platforms are doing their automated texts as regular SMS from Twilio phone numbers or something. But if you did it through Porterhouse, it was an iMessage and the response rates was so much higher because it would come through as a blue bubble. And so and it was coming from phone numbers that you controlled as well too. The So this still works. It's just it doesn't work as well because phone numbers are so much more sensitive to spam, and so you get shut down so much faster, or it shows up and it says, "Hey, it's more likely spam," and things like that. So it just doesn't do the same thing. Have I Been Pwned email search? So Have I Been Pwned is a website that basically shows if your email has been a part of a data breach. Their API used to be completely free, and the usage rate limits were huge. And so now I'm not sure if they charge, but the rate limits are the thing that you can't really work with anymore. It's just so slow now that it's tough to do this stuff. For one-off stuff, it still works. And so the Have I Been Pwned email search is basically like you would query their API with the 9 different variations that people make of a business email address, right? Because everyone's email address is like first name at domain.com, or first name last name, or first name dot last name, or first name hyphen last name, or first name last name initial at domain.com. And so you would just like create all of these and just hit the API and just see which one came back. And then you would say, okay, this might be their email address. Obviously, you would still validate it with another source, but you didn't have to pay for the email address. You just had the name and then the website, and then you'd be able to get it from there. And since Apollo's data, they were hacked, I forget what year, but a lot of Apollo's data back when they were Zen Prospect is on that database as well, and so is People Data Lab. So a lot of times you were getting that source, and they'll even tell you what source it came from, so then you also knew how good it was. So for instance, like the Adobe.com data breach is on there. So if you're looking up personal email addresses, that's a really good one. You can't do the same thing that I was just talking about because people do crazy things with their personal email addresses, but you could still query it and verify if a personal email address actually exists. So that was another fun one that used to work really well. Like I said, it still works. It's just not the same. Then scraping a company's LinkedIn followers, I'm pretty sure that this still works, but it's a lot touchier. So basically, the playbook here is you create a fake LinkedIn account, you warm that LinkedIn account up, and then you put Sales Navigator on that LinkedIn account. That's another thing they changed. You can't just start a LinkedIn account and then buy Sales Navigator the first day. You have to warm it up before you're even allowed to buy Sales Navigator. I think if they think you're a suspicious account. And so then what you could do is you could pretend to be an employee of that company, then you would join it, and then there's a Sales Navigator filter that's literally like you can literally like filter for followers of my company, and then you could filter for that, and then you'd gain access to a company's followers, and then you could filter by CEO or whatever, and then you'd be able to scrape them with a Sales Navigator scraper. Now it's just harder to create a fake account. It's harder to get Sales Navigator on these accounts, and then three, it's a lot touchier. Like, just because you became an employee of the company doesn't necessarily mean that they just give you access to the followers anymore. It's changed a lot, to the point I don't even know precisely how you get it done. Like what you have to do in order to gain access to the followers. I know just you just wake up one day and you have access to their followers, and that's how it kind of happens. So yeah, this was oh, and then this one, people should just know about this one, Google people chipping. If you don't know about this one, you should just I'm just going to put it at the end of this video because you should just know about it. What you can do is you can go to a Google spreadsheet and then just like put in a email address, and then click this, hit insert, smart chips, convert to people chip, and then see how it got this, gray box on top of it. This is how you could validate an email address, because this is Google basically saying that, hey, this email address exists in Google. So if we were going to do one that doesn't exist, like fyzd at growthenginex.com, right? And we can hit this. See how it doesn't convert to a people chip? And then there's some like equals if statement that you can do to basically check if this is gray or not. I forget. Maybe I'll put it in the comments if enough people ask. I just have to look it up. And then you would be able to, then have like a huge bulk of like this is verified and this isn't verified. The only thing is that this still works even if the account is taken down. So if I had a Johnny at growthenginex.com and then I deactivated that user, it'll still people chip, which is kind of annoying. So you can't trust this 100%, but if you need like a free email verification, this would work. Um, So yeah, and it only works on Google accounts. So if they only have an Outlook email, it's not going to work. If they signed up for a Google account with an Outlook email, that'll work. But how many people really do that? So yeah. Anyway, just a fun video of growth hacks that used to work really well, don't, or they somehow got changed and just the effectiveness isn't around anymore. So I hope you like it. It was a little bit of a different video today.